I'm Ariane Elfont, and this is Death the Podcast. Death may be defined as the destruction or permanent end of something. At Death the Podcast, we are looking closely at what happens when something ends. We listen, learn about, and discuss the stories that surround the subject of death. These stories bring up much more than feelings of fear and sadness. They offer opportunities for connection, for hope, and sometimes even for humor. Ultimately, if we are open to exploring death, we create greater potential to experience life. Approximately 30 years ago, Mark Brewer witnessed the planting of a tree to honor the passing of his friend's father. Today, in Irvine, California, the tree remains a living tribute to the departed. This tree, along with the untimely passing of a friend in 2010, were the seeds of inspiration for the Living Urn, a green burial company co-founded by Mark and his friends Mike Wallace and Brandon Patty. The Living Urn offers consumers a sustainable, environmentally friendly way to memorialize their loved ones. Joining us today on Death the Podcast to discuss this cutting-edge technology is co-founder of the Living Urn, Mark Brewer. Welcome, Mark.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Can you tell us more about your personal experience and how the Living Urn came to be?
Yeah, sure. So we, trees have been planted in memory of people for thousands of years. You look back in Europe and everywhere else, it's been planted as a living memory. And back when we were in elementary school, myself and two of my childhood friends, we witnessed a planting of a tree in memory of our friend's father. And kind of stuck with us. Going back today, you can still see the tree remains. And it's growing and thriving, and it was kind of a touching ceremony. Then just back in 2010, one of my partners had a friend pass, and they were looking to do a unique thing for the ceremony and the memorial, and they planted a tree. So that kind of stuck with us, and we wanted to develop something that was unique and uplifting, and that really served as a great memorial for people and for pets, and that's why we developed the Living Urn.
Can you walk me through the sustainable, environmentally friendly process you use at the Living Urn?
Yeah, sure. So basically, all of our products are natural. There's no toxic agents or chemicals in the products. The urn itself is made of plant materials, and it's really made with pressure, and there's no glues or chemicals involved. The bamboo is a sustainable resource. That's what it's packaged in. All the soil additives are organic that we provide. And then the tree seedling, of course, is a tree, baby tree. So the whole package is eco-friendly and sustainable. And we wanted to. That's why it really took a long time to develop it, because it was a challenge not only to figure out the best eco-friendly components, but also to make sure it worked. And that's been really important for us, to make sure we developed a product that actually worked and actually grew a tree.
When you get this package, what do you do with it in relation to the ashes?
Yeah, sure. So we work with a lot of funeral homes in the U.S., and basically a lot of them would fill the urn, the biodegradable urn, up with the remains. So that goes on the bottom, and then we include simple instructions for the family to add the soil additives on top. You bury it in the ground and basically plant the tree seedling on top of the urn. So the roots grow down through the urn and grow the tree on top.
If you're not working with a funeral home, can this be something that your average person does?
Yeah. And even with the funeral home, families take it home with them and plant, usually. And yeah, every average person can do it. We made the instructions very simple. So we worked with arborists and soil scientists and all sorts of people to figure out how we can create instructions that worked, but really were really simple for everybody. Because not everybody has a green thumb and knows gardening that well. So we figured, let's make something that works and really is a step-by-step simple process.
And how is it determined, like what kind of tree will be grown? And I'm assuming based on where people live directs a lot.
Right. So we work with the Arbor Day Foundation. They're based out of Lincoln, Nebraska, and they've been doing this for a long time. They have over 1 million members and affiliates, and they've really set up a zone map. So there's over 9 planting zones we work with in the U.S. alone. And we can narrow it down by somebody's zip code too, because sometimes the lines aren't perfect linear lines on the planting zone map. So we really break that down on exactly where that person lives or they're planting the tree. And then we offer them options for that area, for that climate. And in most zones, we're about 19 to 20 trees per zone. When you go farther south, some of the zones have less just because it's a different climate and environment.
What happens if something goes wrong with the way that your tree's growing? What kind of support does a person have once they do this?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. And we take it very seriously because we're dealing with somebody who passed and we want to make sure it works. So we have customer service right here in Denver who answers a phone, which we think is really important. Especially when somebody lost somebody recently, right? So they're emotional. They want to make sure it works for them. And then, we're dealing with nature. We have a great success rate on our trees because we're not using seeds. We're using baby trees. The seed's been germinated. It's already gone through that phase, that process. And, but we are still dealing with nature. So occasionally if a tree doesn't take, we understand and we'll give them a new one. No problem. So we just want to make sure the family has a good outcome with the tree growth in the process.
So that's great. So if you're having a problem, you call your customer support and they either address and help you fix what is already going on, or you get another tree.
Right. Exactly. And we actually, and then we can do tests on the tree, really simple tests we can have them do just to check the tree itself. And we have arborists who can help out as well with the process. So we try to do the whole customer service, and we'll never, outsource that, because we just think it's so important for our business and for people to make sure they have a good outcome.
So I would imagine even the people working the customer service, that not only do they have to obviously be knowledgeable and definitely have a green thumb, but they also have to be sensitive to the type of caller they're receiving a call from.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We're not selling a typical product. So they definitely have to be sensitive and understand, just understand the needs of the person, right, and what they're looking to do. Because some people are emotional. We have people that call that lose somebody the same day, whether it be a family member, a child, and they call an hour later. So they're really emotional, don't know what they want. And so those are tough calls to field, but at the same time, we're trying to help people. So I think it's a good thing to do that.
So who is answering this customer service line?
We have a couple people. We have about 5 people here in Denver that do customer service. And we're growing right now, so we're actually in the process of hiring more. But yeah, that's who does it. And we answer the phones 6 days a week. Somebody can call and ask questions. And then if there's an urgent thing on Sunday, we'll call them back. We'll make sure somebody calls back, they leave a message. So we just think that's kind of critical for our success. And other people in the space, you look at online businesses, you look at things like that, but it's just in our, it just, without that customer service component, we just feel like we're leaving a big gap for the families that use our product. So that's kind of an important piece of the puzzle.
What kind of direction do you give to people about where to plant their tree?
Yeah, sure. So the instructions include that, you're supposed to keep it so many feet from a structure, depending on the type of tree. And then also how to prepare the area where the tree's going to be planted. So that's really important. That's a kind of a key thing. Some trees prefer more sun, some don't. So there's a lot of factors when you get down to specific trees. But in general, we try to pick the trees in that zone that were easier to grow. We try to give them great options and pick out trees that were hardier and could really, survive the different elements. And that was kind of a focus of our tree selection process too.
And are there restrictions about planting trees that have a living urn?
Yeah, there's in different areas in the U.S., there are different rules and regulations. So we always recommend to customers that ask about that to just check with your local county or city offices to find out if there are any. We've had cases in certain places where there were restrictions, and there's just so many different local areas, right? It's hard for us to know every single one, and then keep updated on the different rules if there are some. But yeah, in certain cases, people that had regulations in their area they can get a large pot in the cases we had. And this could be planted not only in the yard, but we have a version of the living urn you could plant in a large pot and grow a small tree or plant or flowers with the urn. So that's another option for people.
And I guess that might be nice for people who are interested in moving with their tree. Right,
exactly. That's definitely something. The other thing we're seeing now is a big movement with memorial gardens popping up. So instead of a cemetery would dedicate a portion of their land to tree planting instead of just having, the burials. So that's an interesting movement we're seeing, where they do full ceremonies and services, and then they take care of the tree at the cemetery. And it varies by state on the regulation on that, but we're seeing these pop up throughout the country. And we just had a new one join us in Florida. That's a big, really big site. It's 100 acres. They're dedicating to tree growth.
That must be so beautiful to visit.
Yeah, it is. It's a great thing. And they're starting it now, and they have a big natural preserve, but they want to, populate it with trees and then help people take care of the trees. Like you said, if somebody moves, they can always know their tree is there, right? It's being cared for.
What kind of competition do you have in your field, Mark?
It's limited. We're the only biodegradable urn and planting system that's been designed to use tree seedlings. And that's really important just because growing, as we talked about before, right, growing a tree from a seed can be challenging for the novice grower. The competition, there are some companies out there, and there's some companies overseas as well that just don't have the customer service. But we're really the only one. We're the only one using a tree seedling with our product and designing the product to use that seedling.
So the tree seedling and the customer support sound like two things that really differentiate.
They're two things exactly. And there's one more thing that we pride ourselves in that we think is important. And one thing the competition is not doing is we give a customer everything they need to plant. We give them soil additives. So one thing that's important that took us a couple of years to perfect and figure out is that the cremated remains are very basic on the pH scale, where a lot of trees like more acidic growing environments. So to try to figure out how to, and they're also, cremated remains are also they're high in sodium a lot of times, right? So we had to we created something we call ash neutralizing agent, which is poured on top of the remains inside the urn. And then we also give families growth mix as well as wood chips to put on top. So we try to give them the whole package. We know when people are emotional, they don't want to run to the store and pick out different soils and things like that. We thought we'd give them the whole package where they could really grow a living memory from one product.
And do you have people, I know you mentioned that you have people that will call very shortly after they lose a loved one. Do you have people who order ahead of time and plan to use your services?
Yeah, that's been a movement. It's been really interesting because we didn't expect that at the beginning. That would be a big demand for that product. And so we recently developed about 2 months ago a new version of the Living Urn for people interested in pre-planning. So basically what it is, it's the Living Urn system that we send them right away. And then inside of the packaging, there's a voucher card. So when the time is right, whether it's 30 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, they can have their family member call us or email us and select their tree. So that will be delivered fresh from the nursery for them to plant. So that product's really taking off now because people are loving the product, but they're saying, "Hey, I'm not gone yet. What do I do?" And that's kind of a way they can do it. And then it's already paid for. Everything's already covered. You don't have to, do it later. So it's kind of a thing they can do now.
That's great. So the things that you send people ahead of time don't have like an expiration date to them.
One thing we do. So the urn itself, as long as it's kept in a dry place, does not have an expiration date. Of course, the bamboo packaging doesn't have an expiration date. The soil additives do, and what we do there is if it's over, a year or so since after they get the package, we'll just send them new soil additives with the tree seedling. So that's what we do. Once they get the seedling, then they'll have fresh additives to put in with the Living Urn.
Can you tell me a little bit about a follow-up process that you use for your customers?
Yeah, we do regular 6-month and 1-year follow-ups with customers just to make sure that everything's going well, the tree's growing, any questions they may have, and it's been great. It's great to do that, to figure out how we can improve our process, and then also to learn from our customers. And then the good news there is we've gotten great responses. People are just so excited. The tree's growing well, and they just love the memorial. And so with that, we've gotten a number of testimonials coming in, and people just all sorts of different stories with that. People building gazebos by the plant or by the tree. Just a number of different stories that are really uplifting to hear.
That's really nice. I was going to ask you what kind of personal stories or narratives you've had cross your way since starting all of this.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of them, and we launched this product a little over a year ago, and so it's been we developed it for a couple years and launched it a little over a year ago, and we have over 250 funeral homes now carry the Living Urn, and we have thousands of customers now in the U.S. And the stories keep coming in, and we're getting more and more stories as we as the days go on, and it's been interesting. I mean, a lot of them are really emotional. A lot of them, it's hard to it just hits home, and it's but that the message on most of them is that this has really helped us out. This is a great memorial, and so yeah, I think it's been great. And some of the stories, I mean, we had somebody, gosh, today, who lost a child and called us today, a 6-month-old baby, and those are always tough, right? And they couldn't afford to pay for the Living Urn. So we have a bereavement fund set up, so we paid for it for her, and we covered the cost. We had and then we have people that lose a father, but he had this special place in the mountains, so they bury it up there and create a memorial garden there. And so we just have tons of stories coming in daily, and then they send us pictures. So we developed a testimonial page on our website recently, just to incorporate a lot of these stories into the site, so people can see what people are saying and just the effect it's having on people.
That's wonderful. How has this impacted the way you think about the end of your own life or the end of loved ones?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It gets me thinking every day about it, because we hear from customers their story, what happened, and it just makes you realize that life is so precious. And also it makes you realize how important a memorial is to families that are left behind. And whether it's a pet somebody loses, or it's a family member, a person, we just recognize that memorial is, the most important thing as a memory of that person that still remains, right? So we take it very seriously with our product. And and going back to your question, it also makes us, think about it from our own perspective. And we think of our customers as, what if that was my family and going through that? I want to make sure they're taken care of. So that's another driver to make sure. That's why we spent 2 years developing the product and flying around the country, meeting with arborists and soil scientists, and really to make sure we were developing something that worked. Because the last thing we wanted to do was to make something we didn't stand behind and then have it not work, right? So the key thing there was developing something we could stand behind. And that's what we did with the Living Urn.
So I'm assuming that you would want a tree for yourself?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I don't know what tree yet. So that's the big question. But I hopefully have some time to decide, or my wife will have to decide for me if I don't.
Well, hopefully you have plenty of time to decide. I just imagine that all this must go through your head, having it be so personal.
And yeah, it's very personal, and I think that there are a lot of options out there, and it just depends on the family and whatever. We have an uplifting option that we believe in, stand behind, but there are other options out there as well. And I think it kind of goes right in line with the cremation trend. We're seeing, and I'm sure the audience has heard, but the cremations in the U.S. now are more than burials. More people being cremated and choosing that direction than being buried. And the trends are supposed to explode to 70% cremation, I think is the number, by 2030. And so with that trend, people are looking at, well, maybe I don't want to be just sitting on the mantle forever. Maybe I want to do something else with my remains, right? Or my loved one's remains. And that's kind of a driver of this as well, is that it presents an uplifting option for people. And we know it's not for everybody. We understand that. And there's other uplifting options out there as well. But it does present a good option, I think. And that's what that's what we did make with the Living Urn.
And what percentage of your business is pets versus people?
A large percentage of our business is people. And the driver of that is the funeral homes we work with. And we're in over 250 funeral homes now in the U.S., and we have more signing up daily. So that's a movement that keeps going. On the pet side, it's interesting, though, because that's also a growing segment of our business. And we're lining up with some groups now that we think can really launch that side of the business faster, and just make it available to more families. I think the big thing is awareness. So being in the funeral homes, families go in and they see it. They see it sitting on the shelf. They can talk to their funeral director about it. And it's really getting the word out there and making people aware of the option.
I could see how it would be helpful to have a similar kind of relationship with veterinary hospitals or even more and more, it seems like there are more and more options to people when they lose their pets about how to memorialize them that vets seem to be aware of.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and we're working on that now. We have a team of people working on that market and figuring out the best way to go about it. And we're reaching out to large vet groups. That is a big area for us, just because they they're the point of contact, just like a funeral home is usually for a person, right, or a family. The veterinarian is usually the first point of contact for the family with a pet. So we recognize that, and that's something that would help with the awareness on the pet side.
Tell me the most interesting place somebody has planted a tree.
So yeah, we had just recently we had somebody who informed us they planted it on a golf course. Of course, they had to get permission, but her husband loved golf. He was an avid golfer, a professional golfer for a while, and they planted it on the 18th hole of a major golf course. And so that was a neat story. They did a whole ceremony there. Now he'll always be on his favorite hole, the golf course. We've had others that are planting in church properties, just all sorts of stories coming in about where they're planting, what's being done. And so like I said, we get more daily.
And for you and your two business partners, did the three of you ever imagine that this would evolve the way it has?
We never imagined we'd be, years ago, we never thought we'd be in that business. But I think once we developed the product and figured out how it worked and really spent a lot of time making sure it worked, we knew we had something that would be great for families. So yeah, I think it was first making sure we can do it, making sure we can develop something that was successful and that it worked for people, that it grew a tree or grew a plant or grew flowers. And once we did that, we knew that there was a large market. And just by, speaking to people we knew, we talked to a number of funeral homes and met with them about this. And the feedback we got was outstanding. So at that point, we knew we had something special. It wasn't just us saying we liked it. It was more people saying, yeah, this is great. This is a good option for people and for families.
So it must feel good to come to work and be you.
It's good. It's challenging, but it's a great business, and we're really excited about the future. And we have more products coming out now around this. We have something called a memory gift tree, and what it basically is, it's an evergreen tree seedling. So it's either a pine, spruce, or a cypress tree, which are really hardy seedlings, and it's about a foot long. And it comes in a really nice bamboo packaging, and people can get it, and we can write a personalized message on there for them on a card. And basically, it's a gift for people to give families, or give their friend who maybe had a birthday, or give to a family who lost somebody. But it's still in line with our whole eco-friendly movement. And since we're in the tree business, it really helps, having this product as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then a third product we recently came out with and beta tested in 40 funeral homes. It's called Funeral Trees. And it's really an affordable gift that funeral homes can give to the families that use their services. It's a real nice, touching gift. It's personalized to the funeral home, and it's something they can hand out after a service is done. Just say thank you, and we just think it's a great alternative to give a tree instead of something else, whether it be a pin or something. We think a tree is a great touch.
What do you find the most challenging?
The most challenging with this business, it's really the customer service and making sure that people are taken care of. That's the most challenging thing, just to make sure we have the right staff in place to handle calls that aren't a typical customer service call. And so that's something we pride ourselves in. We have to make sure we're always watching it and monitoring it and making sure everybody that, is looking to purchase a living urn or purchase a living urn is well taken care of and can speak to somebody when they need to.
Right. No, I can definitely see how the person answering the phone needs to not be your average person. And knowing a lot about the product almost seems like the easy part. It seems like the harder part is dealing with all the complications, emotional complications that probably come up.
Yeah, sure. And a lot of people want to have a ceremony on a certain date. So we want to accommodate that date. And so it's a balance and really finding, certain trees can only be planted in certain times of the year. So we have that as well. We have to explain to people. So it's just really doing a balance of that. But I do think that customer service is super important, and we spend a lot of time making sure that's done really well. So that was a big thing for us.
And your website's so good; it's really thorough.
Thank you.
The information you give people, which I think is so nice, because I can imagine not necessarily wanting to call and talk to anybody until I had to.
Right. Yeah, and we're redoing the website now. We're actually adding on. One thing that's not visible to people is the pre-planning version of the Living Urns. And that's something you touched on, which I think is great, because that is in high demand. We're seeing a lot of people that love the idea, but they haven't passed away yet, or their loved one hasn't passed away yet. So it's something that really, I think, is a real great opportunity for them to get it ahead of time and pre-plan.
Well, I think there is such a movement now to plan for end of life and be thoughtful and mindful and direct about your wishes. And so I love that you have explored that opportunity already for people, so that when that comes up for them, it's made easy.
Sure. No, that's definitely the case. And I think that it gives people peace of mind too, that's already taken care of. I think one thing to touch on, and we don't touch on this a lot, but the lower cost option, because one of the drivers of the cremation movement is affordability. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing in full service funerals, there's a big range. But on average, they're about $10,000, which is one of the drivers of the cremation market, people looking for more affordable options. And we feel that our product gives them that option. It really gives them an affordable, uplifting avenue with what to do with their loved one after they pass. And that's something we hear over and over again. We appeal to pretty much every demographic in the U.S., every social status. Everybody that goes through the process of having a loved one pass away looks at this as being not only an uplifting option, but an affordable option as well.
It sounds like you're willing, able, and have helped out people who want to do this, who maybe don't have the funds to.
Yeah, so we dedicate a few dollars for every purchase, every sale, to a bereavement fund, and that's something that goes toward people that can't afford it on their own. And we've used this now a couple of times for families, and I think it goes a long way. The response we get from those families is amazing, because they never expect to get it for free, and just it's really touching. So that's something we did, and we want to increase that fund and make it available to more people, just because I think it's a good thing to do, and it helps people out.
Right. An affordable option, a sustainable option, an option that keeps giving life at the end of life. So it's very full. It's very full circle.
Right. Definitely.
So Mark Brewer, thank you so much for being with us today on Death the Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
The word death evokes all sorts of personal feelings, images, and stories. These stories are amazing, and sharing them connects us more fully to life. I'm Ariane Elfont, and you have been listening to Death the Podcast. Join us for our next episode in this series. This show is produced and engineered by Eric Merle. Our associate producer is Jill Gross. Our theme music, It Happened, is written by David Milling and is performed by David Milling and Charles Milling. To hear more of David's music, go to his website, davidmilling.com. Our social media director is Jolie Robichaud. If you're listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher or some other podcast app, if you can take a moment to rate and review us, that helps other people find us. You can find Death the Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or at deaththepodcast.com. Death the Podcast is a production of INO Broadcasting.
You know Labor Day signals the unofficial end of summer, but not the end of your outdoor projects. Lowe's helps you do it right and helps you save with Labor Day deals throughout the store. Shop now and get 2 bags of Stay Green potting mix for $12. And keep your lawn looking neat and trim with a Craftsman 2-cycle 17-inch gas string trimmer, now $20 off at just $119. Whatever's still on your to-do list this Labor Day, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 8/28. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. U.S. only.